My wife was so happy as she packed her bags for her weekend trip with her friends. She was humming a little tune, a soft and cheerful melody that filled our bedroom and made the air feel light. She was moving around our room with a skip in her step, the kind of energy you only see when someone is truly excited about something. When I finally handed her the last suitcase, it felt like her whole world came to a sudden and very loud stop. That suitcase was much too heavy for a simple trip. It felt dense, like it was filled with heavy secrets instead of just clothes. As she reached out to grab the handle, I saw her knuckles turn white from the weight. She almost tripped and lost her balance for a second. That tiny moment of surprise, that quick look of worry on her face, made every long night and every careful plan I made for this weekend feel totally worth it. She looked at me and tried to laugh it off. She asked if I had packed heavy bricks in there or something. Her eyes kept darting back to mine, trying to see if I knew something she didn't. I just stood there with a blank face and didn't give anything away. I told her in a very calm voice that everything she would ever need was right inside that bag. She stopped for a second and told me how important this trip was to her. Then she put on that fake smile that I had started to really dislike over the last few months. It was a smile that stayed on her lips, but never quite made it to her eyes. She told me I was always so kind and gave me a kiss on the cheek. But that kiss felt like ice. It was cold and had no love in it, like a kiss from someone I didn't even know. I stood there and watched her pull that heavy suitcase toward the front door. The wheels were making a loud squeaking sound because they were under so much pressure. It wasn't until her car finally pulled out of our driveway on Elmwood Drive in Columbus, Ohio, and drove out of sight that I could finally take a deep, long breath. Now, the plan was finally in motion. Hashtag our life before the secret her name was Amanda. We had been together for almost 10 years, and 8 of those years were spent as a married couple. If you had asked me just a little while ago, I would have told you we were doing great. I thought we were happy together. We had our own little routines, plenty of good memories, and jokes that only the two of us understood. We used to sit over coffee in the quiet mornings and talk about all the big dreams we wanted to build together during long drives in the car. At least, that is what I told myself. That nice, warm feeling of a happy life was broken into pieces 3 months ago. It all happened because of a simple message that popped up on her phone. She had left it on the kitchen counter to charge while she went to take a shower. I wasn't trying to be nosy or spy on her. I was never the kind of person who didn't trust people. But the screen lit up so bright that I couldn't help but see the words. The message said that someone couldn't wait to hold her again this weekend, and that they miss her very much. It was signed by a man named Brandon. I had no idea who Brandon was. None of our friends knew a Brandon either. As far as I could tell, she didn't work with anyone by that name. My stomach felt like it was tied in knots. But I didn't grab the phone right then. I knew I needed to be sure. I needed to see the whole truth. Hashtag searching for the truth. I started doing some digging on my own, very quietly. For weeks, I did a secret investigation while she thought I was completely unaware of her lies. While she was acting like everything was normal, I was busy gathering every bit of proof I could find. I put special software on her computer that recorded every single thing she typed. I was able to see her private messages as she sent them in real time. It was painful to watch, but I had to know. One time, she told me she had to stay late for work meetings. I followed her from a long way back and watched her go straight to a very fancy hotel in the middle of downtown Nashville, Tennessee. I even put a small tracking device in her car, so I would always know where she was going. The truth that I found was much worse than I ever could have dreamed. Every time she told me she loved me before walking out the door to see him, it felt like a sharp pain in my heart. Every lie she told and every story she made up to cover her tracks was like another sting. But I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say a word yet. I wanted her to feel like she was the one in control. So, when she mentioned wanting to go away for a weekend with her girlfriends, I didn't get upset. I just nodded and told her it was a great idea. I told her she should go and get some rest while I stayed home to fix a few things around the house. She looked so happy and gave me a big smile, totally trusting me. I even helped her pack her bags. I folded her prettiest dresses, the ones she said were just for having drinks with her lady friends. While she was picking out her favorite perfumes and makeup, I was getting my own suitcase ready. But mine wasn't filled with clothes. My bag was full of printed emails, pictures of her screen, and receipts. It was all the proof I needed to show the world that her secret life was over. I felt a mix of sadness and a strange kind of strength. I knew that once I opened that bag, there would be no going back to the way things were. Hashtag the final confrontation. Brandon lived in a very modern, tall building in a place called Riverfront Plaza in Portland, Oregon. I had watched the place enough to know exactly when he came and went. He looked very polished and sure of himself. I bet he never thought that the man whose marriage he was breaking would ever show up at his front door. I waited until I knew for sure that both of them were inside before I walked up the building. My heart was beating very fast in my chest as I knocked on the door with a firm and steady hand. When the door opened, there he was. He looked to be in his late 30s, had a very neat haircut, and was wearing a very expensive watch that shone in the light of the hallway. His confident face changed the moment he saw me. He asked if he could help me. I told him he certainly could as I stepped right past him into the room. He tried to stop me, but I was already inside. Amanda walked into the hallway and just froze. She grabbed her robe and pulled it tight around her body, almost like she thought it would protect her from what was about to happen. She asked me what I was doing there. I didn't even look at her. I just stared at Brandon. I asked him if he knew who I was, and I saw him swallow hard. He told me he thought I should leave, but I just gave a cold laugh. I told him not to worry because I would leave soon, but not before we talk about a few things. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I threw everything onto the table. The photos, the records of where the car had been, and all the messages. The whole truth was right there for them to see. Brandon's eyes got very big, and Amanda took a step back in fear. I yelled at them, asking if they really thought I wouldn't notice. I asked if they thought I was too slow or too trusting to see what was happening. Amanda started crying and begged me to talk in private. I turned to her with so much anger. I asked her if anything was private when she was seeing him behind my back. She shook as tears ran down her face, but I didn't feel sorry for her anymore. I told her she didn't get to cry or act like the one who was hurt because she chose to do this. I looked back at Brandon and asked how it felt to get caught and know that his whole world was about to break. He tried to make an excuse, but I stopped him. I told him I didn't want to hear his sad stories, but I knew someone who might. I had found his wife. She seemed like a very nice woman, and I told him I was sure she would be very interested to see everything in that folder. Hashtag finding peace. Amanda's voice was shaking as she begged me again, but I told her she should have thought about that a long time ago. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. Before I walked out, I looked at Brandon one last time. I told him that if he ever went near her again, I would make sure everyone he worked with knew exactly what kind of person he was. I walked away and didn't look back. The things that happened next were very fast. The very next day, I sent all the proof to Brandon's wife. I wrote her a short note saying how sorry I was for the pain this would cause her. She ended up asking for a divorce only 1 week later. Not long after that, Brandon lost his job too. The people he worked for didn't want any part of the trouble he had caused. He had to quit quietly and leave. As for Amanda, she spent a lot of time crying and saying she was sorry. She tried to explain why she did it, but I just wasn't interested in listening to her stories anymore. The trust was gone, and there was no way to bring it back. I had already started the legal steps to end our marriage. I made sure that when everything was finished, she walked away with nothing. She didn't get the house, the car, or any more chances from me. I stayed in our home and slowly removed the things that reminded me of her. It was a very hard and sad time, but as I stood in our house and listened to how quiet it was without her, I finally felt a sense of peace. The silence was not lonely. It was calm. I had lost my wife. That is true, but I had gained something much more important. I got my freedom back. There's a quiet kind of justice in watching a life built on lies finally fall apart. I realized that being alone was much better than being with someone who didn't respect me. Now, I can look forward to a new life where everything is honest and real. I finally have the chance to start over and be happy on my own terms. It took a lot of work and a lot of pain, but I am finally standing on my own 2 feet. I feel strong and ready for whatever comes next in my life.